What's up, YouTube? This is Big Mike. I want to give a shout out to Town Business. He did a video. First of all, if you're not subscribed to Town Business, subscribe to his channel. I like his channel, man. He gives his honest opinion. He doesn't sugarcoat shit. I really respect that type of shit, man. I don't like. I mean, it's just me, but I don't like political correctness and you know. I just don't like that. I don't like censorship and political correctness. I like people who keep it real, you know what I mean? So subscribe to his channel, man. But he did a video where he was talking about Jon Gruden. And I'm not a huge football dude. I ain't gonna lie about that. I'm not a huge football guy, but I do watch football. And it's very obvious over the past few years from watching Jon Gruden that the guy was overrated. And you could tell that he was getting the treatment, the favorable treatment that a lot of people of his persuasion get through the media and sports. Like I've noticed that there was a lot of criticisms already of Jon Gruden and his performance with the Raiders, but you could see it coming a mile away because we all knew that he was overrated anyway. He was a hype job. First of all, Tony Dungy built that championship team that was in Tampa Bay. Okay, Tony Dungy built that team. The credit should go to Tony Dungy. All right, but here comes Jon Gruden, and he gets all the credit for leading this team to victory. And you see that happen before in the NBA. Mark Jackson was the one who, for the most part, handpicked this Golden State team, the foundation of this team. Mark Jackson did that. And it has to burn him that the organization fired him. I'm assuming they fired him because he wasn't some, Yazabalza nigga. I mean, I just always assume that. I mean, it could be some other shit, man. But he was fired. They put in Steve Kerr. And Steve Kerr gets all of the credit. It has to burn Mark Jackson when he sits there, in an analyst desk and sees the success that this team has and knowing that it should be him. It should be him who was a far superior player any fucking way. But it should be him standing on the sidelines and not Steve Kerr. But back to Jon Gruden, man. The guy was so fucking overrated, man. I mean, first of all, this Super Bowl was tailor-made for him to win because he was going against his former team. He had just coached them the year prior, I believe. So he probably knew not only the personnel, but the plays they like to run and every fucking thing. So, you take that, and no wonder they scored almost 50 points in the Super Bowl. But then, this is the thing. The team progressively got worse. Progressively. Over the years. They got worse and worse. That's not consistent with a great coach. A great coach can adjust. A great coach can say, okay, well, I'm losing this. Let me get this and that to offset it. Jon Gruden can't analyze and judge for shit. He can't. To me, he's actually a below average coach, in my opinion, man. He's a below average coach, and the media can't cover for him anymore. Like when he first came upon the scene, Jon Gruden, I think he was 39 years old. Let's be honest. He was idealistic for the average demographic out there. You know what I mean? Like, the NFL needs a guy like him. He's white, 39 years old, can appeal to a mass audience, relatively, I guess, good-looking guy, was photogenic, telegenic, was good in the interview, good for sound bites. They loved him. But the problem was, average coach at best. winning covers a lot of shit. And for a couple years, I always heard NFL champion, all-time great, Jon Gruden. And they didn't win. And they became mediocre. Then it got awful. And then this is a guy who is supposedly Jon Gruden, this all-time great offensive coach, but it never materializes with any club he has. And the worst thing about him is that he can't judge talent for shit. He can't judge talent for shit. I had to look this back up, man. I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes I do a little research before I do videos because I wanted to get some ideas about some, how he analyzes and some fuck ups that he made in the past, right? I forgot all about this shit. This is a guy who could have taken Aaron Rodgers. I forgot all about this shit. He could have taken Aaron Rodgers in the draft, but instead picked a guy by the name of Cadillac Williams. I remember when he picked him. Does anybody remember Cadillac Williams? This is a guy who cannot fucking pick a QB, a good QB to save his fucking life. Loves to pick old players. Loves to pick players that are past their prime. Cannot judge seasoning talent or burgeoning talent to save his fucking life, man. And now the Raiders are suffering for this shit. This is a guy now who's been out the league for 10 years. He's been an analyst, on ESPN. So now he's behind the times. Schemes are different than when he last coached. The game is a little bit different. The players are different. The personnel is different. So now he got to play catch up. So you already got a below average to average coach coming into a league that's passed him by. That's just setting up a recipe for failure. But back to the basic premise of this, man. Time and time again, you even see it in the workforce, man. Like, a manager will recognize that a worker that he has, whether it's a minority, whether it's a person who may not be, I guess, GQ material, because looks do matter, okay? It's not always about race, but there's always a preference when it comes to this shit. So in this instance, I'm going to use race. You might have a worker, a black guy, smart as a whip, man. Hardworking, stays late. Everybody else leaves at 5:36, 6 o'clock. 7:30, this guy's still at his desk working. The manager recognizes this. Maurice Jenkins is his name. Works hard, man. No, and the manager knows he's the best worker. And the assistant manager is transferring, so there's a position available. So you would think by merit, Maurice Jenkins should get that position. But because of politics, it's going to go to Greg Temperton. Why? Well, Greg's well-liked. Greg's photogenic. Greg's a good talker. Greg's average. He's a good average worker. But the other things offset all of his weaknesses. And Greg's white. And people know that, generally speaking, in this country, people like their leaders to be white. White people have a problem taking orders from black people. Generally. See, white people, when they take orders from black people, or when they have a black person in a position of authority over them, it makes them feel like failures. So that's why Maurice didn't get a position. And that tells you why, on the grander scheme, why Jon Gruden is where he is now. I tell you a flip side of that too, man. You know, in the 1980s, you always hear about Larry Bird and the Celtics, Larry Bird and the Celtics, Larry Bird and the Celtics, to the point where, damn, did Larry Bird coach the team? Well, the coach was K.C. Jones. And I never, ever, now think about this, man. When you hear about all of the best coaches in NBA history, or the best coaches of the last 40 years, you hear about Phil Jackson, you hear about Pat Riley, you hear about Red Holtzman, you hear about Red Auerbach, you hear about, you know, a plethora of coaches. Rick Carlisle, Don Nelson, George Karl. Some of these guys haven't even won championships. But you never hear K.C. Jones. And in K.C. Jones' career, he didn't have the longest career, but he coached enough games where he won over 500 games, won 2 NBA championships with the Boston Celtics, and I believe appeared in 5 NBA finals, including his second year in the NBA as far as coaching is concerned, led the then Washington Bullets to the 1975 NBA Finals. But you never really hear K.C. Jones mentioned, ever. It's always Larry Bird and Boston Celtics. Larry Bird, Larry Bird. Larry Bird stole the inbounding pass. But K.C. Jones might accept the defensive scheme for that, though. Oh, Bird, what a great steal! K.C. Jones had nothing to do with that, though. See what I'm saying? Like, I'm not, some people might think I'm a racist or whatever, man, but it's not that I'm a racist. I'm a realist. Like, Jon Gruden, to me, is the biggest example of white privilege in this country. Well, in sports history. I don't want to say this country. That's Donald Trump. But Jon Gruden is, to me, is the biggest example of white privilege in sports history. I mean, really, like, I mean, I don't know his win percentage, but it can't be that high. It can't be like, it got to be like close to 500 at best. It can't be that great, man. He's not a very good coach at all, man. He's not. And I don't want to hear about he don't have this talent or he don't have that, you know. I mean, the guy's just not a good fucking coach, man. All of the good coaches, to me, all of the